Hello and welcome back to the Grumpy Stew Podcast. My name is Dylan. I am the Grumpy Stew, and you're listening to the podcast for flight attendants. This is episode 37, and I'm back. I know it's been a long while, but let's be real here. No one listens to this thing. But despite that, several weeks ago, I began revamping the podcast. I created a website, thegrumpystew.com. You can find all of the Grumpy Stew podcast episodes right there. And if you prefer to have the MP3, just click on the MP3 player tab at the very top of the website. Yeah, there's still Spotify, SoundCloud, but I might discontinue SoundCloud. It's $80 a year for hosting, and since no one actually listens to this, so what the fuck's the point? And currently the podcast does not generate any kind of ad revenue, PayPal revenue, or anything. So, you know, I'm paying for the website hosting, I'm paying for the podcast hosting out of pocket. I'm going to save myself the $80 if that's okay with you. And speaking of thegrumpystew.com, you can find an uplifting message from Jetway Jesus and see the Grumpy Stew Instagram feed all right there. You got all the episodes, Instagram, and Jetway Jesus right there on thegrumpystew.com. One-stop shopping. You're welcome. I had lots of plans for future episodes, and all of that got shot to hell due to the upheaval in the industry with the coronavirus, the dirty Rona. Today's episode is special in that it's been in the works for weeks, maybe over a month, and we have the first ever guest on the podcast on this episode. It has taken a while to get him on the show. Like I just said, we spent weeks talking about it, but with all the upheaval with the corona, it's kind of fucked up scheduling quite a bit. But here we are. You'll soon be hearing a conversation between myself and the person behind the very popular social media presence, Confessions of a Trolley Dolly. 17,000 of you follow Confessions of a Trolley Dolly on Facebook, and nearly 8,000 of you follow him on Instagram. That's right, you heard me say him. Not only is our favorite Trolley Dolly a fellow male stew, but he's also a Brit. Before I bring our guest, just a quick word about this interview. This was recorded on Monday after Easter. I made a mistake and forgot to tell him to wear headphones during the interview, and as a result, you can sometimes hear my end of the conversation come out of his speakers on his laptop. It got picked up by his microphone. Unfortunately, it created an echo. I removed as much of it as I can in post-production, but you'll still hear issues with the audio. You might hear some weird cuts, and you still might hear some of the echo. I apologize. It's entirely my fault. Please don't think negatively of Trolley Dolly. It wasn't him. It was me. I didn't tell him to use earphones. He didn't know. Also, if you're listening to the podcast on YouTube, shameless plug time. It's important that you click like and subscribe if you're following the podcast on YouTube. A couple of reasons. Liking a video tells me that you like the content, but also, and more importantly, it tells YouTube, the YouTube algorithm, that you like the content, and then it recommends that content and the Grumpy Stew podcast to more viewers. So I can generate more subscriptions, more likes, and maybe, hopefully, one of these days, generate ad revenue, so I don't have to pay out of pocket for all this shit anymore. Oh, by the way, and speaking of shameless plugs, you guys know that I narrate audiobooks on the side. You can go to dylanvoiceover.com, and you'll see that I have 2 book projects coming up. They'll both be finished early summer to late summer. And I'll have some promo codes for you guys. So the first 50 friends that scroll all the way to the bottom of dylanvoiceover.com. And in the subscribe form, just put in your email address. I will not spam you. I won't do anything like that. I will just send you a promo code for a free audiobook when the book is ready, when it's released. Okay? Is that a deal? All right. So, enough of that shit. My guest is the man behind Confessions of a Trolley Dolly. He goes by Dan. Dan, thanks for being on the podcast. Do you want to be called Confessions, or you want to go by your first name?
I use a pseudonym, Dan Air. So
okay, we'll just call you Dan.
Yeah, a very old airline here in the UK many years ago now. So I just, use it as a pseudonym. So Dan
Well, I'm glad that we finally have this chance to talk and have you on the podcast.
Yeah, definitely. Very exciting. Thank you for inviting me.
So, Dan, I've been following you on Instagram for a while, and I'm impressed with your social media exposure. You have almost 8,000 followers on Instagram.
I do, yeah. 8,000 on Instagram, 17,000 or something on Facebook, and about 2,000 on Twitter. So yeah, it's been going for a while now. I did have quite a few more on Facebook, but unfortunately, a few years back, I had nearly 100,000 on Facebook. But unfortunately, a few years back, there was a problem with the page, and it got closed. And
that's right. You should probably cover that story because you told me, but you haven't told my audience.
Yeah, well, basically what it was, I stupidly shared, I got sent by one of my followers a post about, and a girl was being quite derogatory towards flight attendants, which I then shared, and stupidly for me, all a big learning curve, which I have learnt my lesson since. I was very naive at the time. It was quite new when I'd set it up and everything. And this girl, anyway, this post was quite derogatory towards flight attendants. I then shared the post, and obviously us being quite protective to our careers and our roles as crew, got on the defensive and were quite nasty to her. So she then obviously complained, and the page got, well, I don't know whether it got suspended or whether it got closed. I still don't know, to be honest, to this day.
Was this your website, or was this like a Twitter page or something?
It was on Facebook.
Oh, okay.
It was on Facebook page, yeah. And I tried to contact Facebook, but to no avail. So I had to restart it all and set it up again. So this was about 3 or 4 years ago now. And unfortunately, I just haven't got back to the levels that I had before. So, which is rather frustrating.
I think you had told me you had at one point like 100,000 followers or something like that.
Yeah. It was just shy of 100,000 followers. So yeah, as you can imagine, I was pretty upset, and still am to this day, to be fair.
Well, that is fair, because 100,000, that's significant.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So how we've talked quite a bit in private messaging, and we talked about all kinds of things. And something that a lot of flight crews have in common around the world is most of us, especially as younger ones, we have side gigs.
Yeah.
So how did you get started in your side gig?
So, it was about 8 years or so ago now. I just wanted to bring a bit of fun and, a bit of humour to our role. I was a big fan at the time of Pan Am before she went a little bit off the rails.
Right. Yeah, she got a lot of flack for taking pictures of a flight attendant that was doing her job.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do. Yeah. And I just kind of wanted to bring that a little bit here. We didn't really have, obviously, I know you guys in America, you had rants of a sassy stew and all of those sort of things. But here in the UK, we didn't really have anything like that back then. So I wanted to set up something along those lines here in the UK. And that's how Confessions of a Trolley Dolly was born. And then it kind of evolved then from, just the humorous side into the more serious side of our role with the Angels of the Sky thing, looking at how, people have gone above and beyond in their role as crew, as flight attendants, and basically save people's lives, because we do, so often people seem to think that we're just there to serve tea and coffee. Right. And we're not, obviously, as you know, it's far from it, so I just wanted to highlight that. So that's when I started doing the Angels of the Sky part of it. And then obviously from that, set up the Angels of the Sky Memorial Day, which is on July the 24th, getting crew to wear a black ribbon on their uniforms, or the civvies, whatever, if you're not in work, just as a sort of commemorative thing, to sort of honour those crew that have done all these things in the past. So yeah, and it's just been building from there, really.
Well, it sounds like it's kept you quite busy.
It has, yeah. It's just me that runs it. I think sometimes people, when I get some messages, people I think that I've got some big team, and no, there's no big team. There's literally just me.
Now, Dan, how long have you been flying?
I've been flying for 15 years now.
Okay.
So yeah, I've always been an av geek, a real aviation geek since I was a child. Love flying, love aviation, aeroplanes, and always wanted to be a pilot when I was a child. But yeah, I didn't work hard enough at school.
Well, same with me.
Unfortunately. So I decided to become cabin crew, and yeah, I love it. Still enjoy it to this day. It can be challenging at times, as you know, and as all of your listeners will know. It has its bonuses as well. So yeah,
there are advantages. I mean, it's an easy job, and people like to put us down because it is easy on the surface, but you know, I mean, the details, that's where the devil lies, as we all know.
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, this woman, I asked her to sit up like a big girl, and she's like, what do you know? You're just a sky waiter. And I said, well, you say that like working for a living is beneath you. And you know, she didn't like that one bit, and fuck her.
Exactly, yeah. That's the thing, is it's as we touched on before, you know, people, they get on board, and I think as well as aviation is becoming safer, there's not those images on the TV. The last 12 months or so have been different, obviously, with the MAX. You know, over recent years, as aviation has been getting on the whole, has been getting safer, there's less images on the telly of these, you know, mangled wreckages and, you know, and things like that. So I think people see it as, and especially how big, well, obviously before coronavirus, how big the aviation industry was. People think that they're just like getting on a bus or getting on a train. So
right. This touches on something that we've talked about in private, because we were going to discuss this on the podcast before all this Corona shit started. Yeah. And we were both kind of discussing how and why passengers act like dirty heathen savages. And it's because flying is too cheap.
Definitely.
They treat it like it's their local metro.
Exactly. There's the flip side, isn't there, really, with the low cost industry, you know, where it's open travel up to the masses. However, it's also opened it up to the people that maybe shouldn't be traveling, shall we say? You know, they shouldn't
be let out of their cage, right?
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Right. Yeah, 100%.
Well, here in the States, you know, the airlines, quote unquote, the airlines are just a big boogeyman, and it's typically public enemy number one. Yeah. People love to hate on the airlines, and they think it's too expensive, and they complain about all the fees and everything. I'm like, look, you don't understand. Flying today is cheaper than it was 40 years ago.
Yeah.
Even when you adjust for inflation, a one-way ticket in 1980 was like $150, maybe $200. That's like $600 today.
Yeah.
Yeah. You could fly round trip to Europe for about that.
Yeah, I know.
It's ridiculous. And so they complain that they're being squeezed in planes like sardines. Well, it's a business.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, margins are thin.
Yeah, definitely.
They don't think about that.
No, not at all. They just want to get the best price. I think as well for over here in the UK, obviously Ryanair, as I'm sure you're aware of, they get slated in the press over here about how bad they are, and you know, and they are, and I have flown with them on numerous occasions, and they are pretty much as bad as what people make them out to be, but they're still going, and people will still book with them. I had incident with them where a flight, we were traveling to Pisa, and our flight got cancelled last minute, and they did absolutely nothing, and we swore we would never ever fly with them again. And I think since then I've flown with them about 2 or 3 times, because they're just, you know, it's there, it's cheap, they fly to the places that you want to fly to, they at the times you want to fly. So you know, it's one of those things. But yeah, and that's the thing, people these days just want, you know, to get away for as cheap as they possibly can. So
cheap travel has certainly opened up the world for people that otherwise can't do it.
Definitely.
And I can appreciate that, but you know, some people should just stay home.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Many people should just
and you can count how many teeth they have in one hand. It's
yeah, very true. Very true.
It's kind of the same with Spirit Airlines here. They're kind of like the Ryanair of the United States.
Yes. Oh, I believe so. Yeah.
Here's something funny though. My aunt, filthy freaking rich. She can go anywhere she wants. She can do whatever she wants. She has the income to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll fly here to Orlando once a year, maybe twice a year, to go to Disney World. And she flies on Spirit.
Really?
Yeah, because it's cheap.
Yeah.
She could fly direct on United from Houston.
Yeah.
But it's probably, $600 round trip.
Yeah.
But for $150, she can sit up front. She gets a checked bag. Yeah.
See, that's it. They've made it so, so available to, and that's it. And even people with money would still rather save the money and go the cheaper way. But whether, obviously, I think when all this coronavirus does eventually die down, I think the industry is going to be very different.
It's going to be totally different.
Yeah.
The expectations.
Definitely.
People think now that we're going to be even cheaper, and we probably will be for a while.
Yeah.
To encourage people to travel again. But, I've been reading in the news quite a bit that, psychologists are saying that it could take months after, say, the peak of the virus or the end of the virus pandemic, that people will feel comfortable to get on a plane again.
Yeah.
And I don't know what the stats are at your airline. Perhaps you can illuminate it for us. But at my airline, typically this time of year per day, we transport 600,000 people a day. Right now, we're transporting only 30,000 people.
Yeah.
It's like an 85% reduction in demand.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
It is. Well, my airline is grounded. We're not doing any flights whatsoever at the moment. So we've just gone to zero, literally overnight. Which is worrying because, again, it's one of those things, and it's all in the back of our mind of, redundancies and things when obviously the industry does start, when it does start up again, as we say, it's going to be completely different. So then in the back of your mind, you're thinking, well, is there going to be a job for me at the end of all of this, when things do get back to normal? Because it's going to take so long for those levels to get back, if they ever get back to the way that they were beforehand. It's a worrying time, as well as the virus, worrying about whether you're going to catch that, whether you're going, when it all does die down, whether you're going to have a job to go back to at the end of it. So it's scary. It really is. And hence why I just, with Confessions of a Trolley Dolly, try and just, get things a little bit lighthearted to, take people's minds off things. And
at first, I didn't take it all that seriously because I made the mistake of listening to my government.
Yeah. And, same.
They made it sound like it was just the flu.
Yeah.
And the mortality rate of actual flu, the standard flu, is quite high.
Yeah.
And then, you're looking at stats coming out of China and stuff. It's like, well, it looks like it's at 3% mortality. You catch this thing, 96% are going to survive and recover.
Yeah.
And then I thought people were overreacting and being ridiculous and panic buying. And then obviously it became apparent that this is far more serious than anyone really thought.
Yeah.
But what's really sickening, not to get political, is the leaders of my government were warned about this months ago, and they did not take it seriously. And all this shit probably could have been avoided.
Definitely. And exactly the same with our government. Boris has literally just come out of hospital, and he's, all over the news and the media over here professing his, love for the NHS and all of that. Obviously, we're so lucky here in the UK because we've got the NHS, and he's there and he's professing his love for it and how amazing they are. And yet his party have literally just stripped them apart. Again, not to get too political here because I could go on a huge rant about that. It's, you just think, well, rather than words are useless, you need to now in the future be the man that breaks the mold where the Conservative Party is concerned, break the mold, and invest in the NHS. And
perhaps he'll have a change of mind.
Hopefully, I hope so. Yeah. I mean, when he got into power over here, when he took over from Theresa May, he was saying that he was going to, and subsequently won the snapshot election that we had. And, you know, he was professing all this, that he was going to do this, that and the other for the NHS. However, you know, bringing all these new nurses and things, but they were literally just going to be filling the numbers that were going to leave anyway. You know, I've got a lot of friends that work in the NHS as nurses, some as doctors, you know, and they just say it's just words and you know, they're not doing enough. So I hope
same here.
This will be a wake-up call that they need, that the NHS needs a lot more money, and our healthcare over here needs a lot more investment into it. But time will tell.
But at least you have it.
And on the flip side, exactly, of course, and we are so lucky, and you know, I know,
not like us. Yeah,
exactly.
Here, you know, people lose their homes, they lose everything they've worked for. Yeah. They lose retirement, everything just because their kid got sick.
Yeah.
It's horrific. But only in America is that true. But I'm lucky that here at the airline I work for, that if you take a voluntary leave, they're covering all of your benefits 100%.
Great.
And they're not going to hit you with a big bill when you come back to work or anything like that.
Oh, that's great.
We're fortunate in that regard. This whole Corona shit, it is just insane.
I know, it really is. It really is.
I mean, you're staying healthy over there.
Yeah, so far, you know, quarantined and, you know, the lockdown, we've got all that going on at the moment, which hopefully appears to be working. You know, there's the talk in the news that we are sort of coming towards the peak, and the last couple of days and the numbers the last couple of days do appear to be dropping of the deaths, but it's in hospital. So we don't know whether, because it's been like the holiday over here, we don't know whether they're just because they haven't included deaths outside of the hospitals, whether the numbers would have been as high. But at the moment, it could potentially be that the lockdown is working and the deaths might be sort of plateauing a little bit now. But
it's kind of looking like that.
Hopefully, yeah.
But doctors that are kind of running the response to this thing are worried that people are going to see the improvement and then think, oh, I can go back. I can go back out. I can go have dinner. I can hang out with my friends. And people will get lackadaisical about, you know, the infection rate and everything else with this thing.
And then it'll be the second wave that they're talking about.
And then it'll be worse.
Yeah.
I don't think we could take a second hit.
No, definitely not.
I'm not sure what the situation is in the UK in terms of economic disparity and, you know, racial injustice and things like that. But here in the US, it's systemic, of course. But this pandemic has highlighted definitely the differences between the haves, the have-nots, which the have-nots tend to be brown people.
Yeah.
And people that live in communities or majority people of color.
Yeah.
And it seems that this virus is affecting those folks more disproportionately only because of their lack of access to healthcare.
Yeah.
And that is sickening.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. See, I mean, we're lucky in that respect. You know, obviously I don't think the racial divide is as prolific here as what it is, you know, for you guys in the state. Right. And again, with our healthcare system, you know, it doesn't matter how much money you've got. At the end of the day, the NHS, you know, thank God, as we were saying before, that we've got that. The NHS will treat you, you know, so we're lucky in that respect. So, but there's definitely, you know, in terms of with the financial impacts and things, you know, the people in the lower paid spectrum over here of jobs and things, they're definitely being impacted more by it. You know, and there's a lot of talk of the government aren't doing enough for the lower paid workers, you know, that have now subsequently, and a lot of them have already lost their jobs. You know, unemployment is skyrocketing already.
Yes.
You know, so, and it's impacting them hard. And then obviously, you know, there's the talk, which probably isn't going to be talk, of the recession that the world is going to go into after all of this.
And a lot of it is tourism related.
Definitely.
You know, hotels are going under. Airlines are going under. It'll be interesting to see of all these big hotel chains and airlines, large tourism attractions and things. It'll be interesting to see who comes out of this intact.
I mean, there's been talk for years, again, just going back to Ryanair with Michael O'Leary, he's been saying for years that there'll be consolidation, and in a few years' time, there's only going to be a big, especially here in Europe, there's only going to be a big few airlines left. And we've seen that over the last few years here. I mean, I'm sick to death of having to do tributes to airlines here. You know, I mean, in the last couple of years, since 2017, we lost Monarch, then we lost Thomas Cook. Just more recently, we lost Flybe. All three big, huge airlines over here. And it's sad. And I mean, thankfully for the Monarch guys, a lot of those ended up going to work for Thomas Cook because they were quite a similar sort of airline. So, you know, pilots and cabin crew went off to
and then they got redundant again over there.
Yeah. Now, thankfully, because Thomas Cook went before all of this coronavirus, a lot of them managed to get back into other airlines. But now, unfortunately for the Flybe crew and pilots, you know, it's that they sort of went literally just before this was all sort of starting. And I've had so many messages through from crew that, you know, sending me the pictures for the Dollies of the Day thing, you know, and saying, oh, I was just starting my training course with BA or Virgin, and literally we were a week in or a week away from graduating, and then all this kicked off, and so they've been laid off straight away. You know, they haven't even been. We've got the furloughed scheme over here. I don't know whether you guys have got that in the US.
We have it, but it's not in place yet.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Yeah. See, that's all in place now here. So, but obviously they haven't been included in that because the airlines laid them off.
Can you imagine going through 2 bankruptcies, or call it administration there, I think, going through that twice?
Yeah.
Having to restart essentially 3 times. You're losing your seniority 3 times, your pay 3 times, and then get laid off again because of this freaking virus.
It's unbelievable.
It's horrible.
Yeah, it is. It is. And it's, you know, it's so sad for them. The aviation industry is such a volatile place before all of this anyway. Right. So, I mean, this is just really, it's just unbelievable. And you look up to the sky. I'm looking outside now, and for once we've actually got crystal clear blue skies here. But it's so strange not seeing planes zigzagging. And I live quite close to our airport, and, you know, usually there's planes going over every few minutes. And it's strange not seeing the contrails or hearing the sound of a plane, just the odd one. And when you look on flight radar, it's 9 times out of 10, it's always a freighter, or, you know, it's weird. It really, and it's sad. It is.
It's the same here. I live in Orlando, and it's, you know, probably 97% of all of the travel into Orlando is related to tourism.
Yeah.
And interestingly enough, there's a 97% reduction in traffic in Orlando.
It's not just the whole physical thing of this, you know, of the virus. It's people's mental health and, you know, and worry with that side of it. What, you know, how people are going to, you know, react when they're being laid off and things. You know, that's a really scary.
Crazy amounts of anxiety and stress.
Yeah.
PTSD is going to be through the roof. I'm sure there's going to be some suicides.
Totally.
Probably a lot of domestic abuse and things of that nature. Yeah.
There's been a lot of talk about that over here, about, you know, with the domestic abuse side of things, about how it's, you know, it has been impacting people that, you know, suffer domestic abuse and that. And I think there's actually been a few deaths already related to that. But obviously,
I'm sure.
It's so hush-hush at the moment because obviously you turn the news on and all they talk about is COVID, the virus, you know. Yeah. So, but yeah, that's it. It's the wider impact of it. You know, it's not just the deaths that are going to be related to the virus directly. It's what's going to come of it indirectly.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's going to be very far reaching.
Yeah. So how long have you been flying for?
Been flying for 10 years.
Right.
I started at a regional airline. I put up with them for 5 years, and I've been at my current airline for 5 years.
And you enjoy it?
In a manner of speaking. Yeah. It'd be great without passengers, but unfortunately, as this virus has highlighted, we kind of need them.
Yeah, exactly. I always hate that when they say, you know, if you're in an argument with them and they say, well, we pay your wages. And I'm like, well, you don't directly.
You do, but you don't, you know.
But, yeah, exactly. I know. But I suppose at the moment, it's kind of making it a little bit more, yeah, well, actually, you do indirectly. But yeah.
You know, it gets complicated. Like, this guy was just being such a fucking retard. And he's like, I pay your salary. I'm like, well, first of all, I'm not salaried. I'm paid by the hour. Yeah. Secondly, my check is not signed the guy 19C.
Exactly. Yeah, good point.
Such a smart ass. No, I'm surprised I haven't been fired.
And I don't get more complaints letters, whether I just don't get them shown to me.
Well, I think possibly my manager sweeps a lot of it under the rug. Right. I'm only aware of one complaint in 10 years. One complaint.
Wow.
One complaint.
That's good going.
Well, I mean, that's just what I'm aware of.
You're aware of, yeah.
Right. And this woman complained that I made a joke about black coffee being manly.
Right.
She complained.
For that?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
And I get this phone call. Did you make a joke about black coffee being manly? I go, well, it sounds like something I would say. Why? She goes, did you say it to a woman? And instantly I knew who she was talking about.
Yeah.
It was this very, very butch lesbian that asked for black coffee. And I just instantly said, oh, like a man. And it wouldn't be funny otherwise. Yeah, she didn't like that.
No, she didn't see the funny side.
Well, maybe she should shave her mustache.
Yeah, that would help. That would help get away the manly impression.
Oh, people are crazy. The things that they do to their kids. I was doing a beverage service. I asked this young lady what she would like to drink, and the mother goes, it's a he, actually.
Oh,
and I'm sitting here thinking, well, maybe you shouldn't put your son's hair in French braids.
Yeah.
Because he was prepubescent. He hadn't hit puberty yet, so he didn't have male features in his face.
Yeah.
He looked like a girl.
Yeah, see?
It's a he, actually. Really? Well, maybe, you shouldn't make him look like Pippi Longstockings,
We had it here, an airline here in the UK decided to get rid of the ladies and gentlemen from the PAs.
Oh, God.
Yeah, that went down with like a lead balloon with its crew. It's the whole snowflake thing, isn't it? I think it's the whole, the snowflake generation that literally just get offended by every.
Well, they're professionally offended.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's exhausting,
Oh God. I don't even worry about offending people. I don't give a shit.
No. Exactly. Well, that's the best way to be, really.
Right.
And that's exactly how I am. To be fair,
I mean, if you listen to my podcast, it's pretty clear I don't give a shit.
Which again, the best way to be. It's just easier that way. It's just easier, isn't it?
Being honest with people is just so much easier.
Exactly. Yeah.
I was working some flight. This is, of course, during the whole COVID thing, and we didn't have that many passengers to begin with, but we had a few. And I think we're going to LA, and we had a bunch of Aussies trying to get back to Australia. And there were a few Americans trying to connect on to another city. We got down to some folks having 30 minutes or, 20 minutes to make a connection.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, am I going to make it? This older lady, she asked if they're going to hold a plane for her. And I go, probably not.
Yeah.
And she looked stunned. I said, honey, I'm not going to lie to you.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm going to tell you the truth.
Yeah. I'm going to tell you the truth. I'll deal with you honestly. I cannot promise that they're going to hold a plane for you. At the end of the day, they have a business to run. Yeah. They still have to abide by the Department of Transportation and maintain a certain statistic and yada, yada, yada. Yeah. I don't lie to my passengers. It serves no one.
No, exactly. Yeah. It's just easier just to be direct with them and just to, tell it as it is, really. Because
does it drive you crazy when flight attendants lie to the passenger? Oh, yeah, you'll totally make it. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, definitely.
I have 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Because, you never know as well. You never know. Okay, you may never see that passenger again in your whole life, but you might see them again the very next day or a few days later, and then they'll be like, and then it just gives you more shit to deal with then at the end of the day.
Just be honest. That's the best policy.
Exactly. Yeah. It's just, I don't, well, they won't hold the plane for you. I don't know whether you'll make the connection because I don't know when we'll be going. We're the last people to know anything at the end of the day. The passengers know more than what we do half the time, especially with all the, the apps and everything now that they have. And
we're cancelled.
Yeah.
Really?
That's news to me. Great, off you go then.
Yeah. Well, I'm going back to the hotel. I'll see you chumps later.
Yeah. It is. They're exhausting. They are exhausting.
Well, I love it when they think they know more than you do about like the industry or, the admin stuff. So, as a flight leader on some trip, it was a 737 trip. We do not operate the MAX.
Right. Yeah.
We never bought them. Safety features of this 737 aircraft. And then later this guy's going, so did you say this is a 737? I'm like, yes. Yeah. He goes, but they're grounded. I said, the 737 MAX is grounded. This is a 737-800. It's a next gen. But it's a 737. Yes, an 800, not a max. But it's a 737, right? Like he's trying to catch me in something.
Yeah.
I'm like, if you don't feel comfortable, we can go back to the gate and let you out. But it's a 737-800.
They're unbelievable, aren't they?
Yeah, well, they're all experts.
Oh God! Well, we have it, especially with we fly mainly on the Airbus, and when we're boarding via stairs, and if it's windy and the engines make that rattling noise, the amount of times passengers get on and go, "Is that engine all right? Is everything okay with that engine?" And you're like, "Well, I wouldn't be stood on here, and I wouldn't be, if there was anything wrong with it. It's completely normal. I fly a lot more than you do. It's fine." And I had a guy once who got on and he was like, "Well, I work for Airbus and I know for a fact that isn't normal."
Oh, really?
I was
like, "Well, you're welcome to leave."
Yeah, that's exactly what I said to him. I said, well, by all means, if you think that noise is making something different to what I hear on pretty much a daily basis, then by all means, there's the door. You're welcome to get off. And then the captain came out and basically tore him a new arsehole, and he went back to the seat with his tail between his legs and sat down, and we didn't get a peep out of him for the rest of the flight. But that's the thing. It's these know-it-alls, and you're like...
Let me guess, you landed safely.
Yeah, absolutely fine. Not a problem whatsoever.
Oh, shocker.
So, yeah. But it's like...
Back at my regional airline, we worked on these Canadian regional jets. And, of course, we had a mechanical delay. We had to deplane everybody. And this guy's coming off the plane. He's like, "It looks fine to me. What's the problem?" I'm like, "So you're an expert, right? So you have x-ray vision. You can see exactly what's going on with the plane."
Yeah.
And he just looked at me funny. He's like, "Get the hell out of here."
Yeah, just go.
See you in an hour.
Yeah, they just frustrate the life out. And the more you hear these stories and the more that we talk about it and the passengers and everything, I'm thinking, well, actually a few more months off away from them wouldn't go down too bad.
It took me a while to adjust actually to the thought of not working for a while.
Yeah.
And at first I was very, very nervous. I was very nervous about, the state of our company, what's going to happen.
Yeah.
All that. There's a lot of anxiety there. And it took me a couple of weeks to kind of calm down. And I'm kind of thinking, not having to pack my bag every day is kind of nice.
Yeah, definitely.
Not being home. I'm not used to being home so much. So I am a little stir crazy.
Yeah.
To kind of circle back to what we talked about in the beginning, we all have side gigs. My side gig is I do voice work and I read audiobooks. And I have 2 audiobook projects I'm working on right now. It's going to keep me busy for a couple of months.
Great.
Hopefully I get some more because I'm going to be not so busy for 3 or 4 months probably.
But it's such a weird time at the moment, I think, as well, because before all of this, obviously, there was the whole, especially here, I don't know what it was like in the States, but there was the whole, the sort of green revolution over here of protecting the environment and things. And that was having a massive impact on the aviation industry over here. Obviously there's the talk of the 3rd runway at Heathrow, and that was being knocked on the head because of the environmentalists and things, and airlines offsetting the carbon more and more, and all things like that. So that was that was certainly changing people's, especially again the younger generation. That was changing their... My
airline has been bending over backwards to court the 20-somethings with money.
Yeah.
And our boarding music is this god-awful music that they listen to. Yeah. Like wind chimes are a freaking instrument, right? I mean, it's these fools with beards and ponytails with hairbands and all this other shit, and their pants pulled up like there's a flood. But I'll give the airline credit where they started a recycling program a number of years ago.
Yeah.
And we recycle as much as we can.
Yeah.
And all of the revenue that's generated through the recycling program is used to build houses for people.
Yeah. Oh, wow. That's
and then they're doing everything they can to make the aircraft more efficient, to reduce their fuel costs, reduce fuel consumption. But you brought up an interesting point is with so many people staying home, there are fewer cars on the road.
Yeah.
Fewer tourists out doing their things and leaving trash and polluting.
Yeah.
And fewer aircraft flying. The air is cleaner.
Yeah.
There are dolphins in Venice all of a sudden because the canals are clean again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane.
Yeah. But it's, it's it is crazy to see how, you know, what aircraft will be gone, you know, when all of this is done. We say, you know, but that's a good thing for the environment. If the older types, the more, you know, the less environmentally friendly ones, if they're going to be retired, that's only a good thing, really.
Well, you know, one thing that Boeing has really fucked up is they have not planned for a suitable replacement of the 757 and 767.
Yeah.
They're 25 years behind on this.
Yeah.
What do they have? The 787, which is a fine plane.
Yeah.
But no one is going to use that to replace a 767 just due to its range.
Exactly. That's it. Yeah.
Even though it's more efficient, you know.
There's the talk, isn't there, of the NMA, the middle of the...
Right. But, you know, it's going to be 10 years before we even see a prototype.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then they messed up the MAX.
Yeah.
They'll be lucky to survive this.
Exactly. That's the thing. I mean, is anyone going to have any confidence in if Boeing puts out a new aircraft? But that was, you know, the MAX should never have. They should have just gone with the NMA and just got rid of the MAX and gone with the NMA straight away, really.
Yeah. You know, I could see updating the 737, but what they essentially did is they kept the fuselage and just completely revamped everything else.
Yeah.
And then every redesign of something led to a complication.
Yeah.
And underslung engines, right? There has to be a minimum clearance of 17 inches from the bottom of the engine to the tarmac.
Yeah.
Well, with this new engine that they have, it's bigger, so they don't have the clearance. So they thought, well, they could either make the landing gear longer, which would it'd have to fit in the same space
underneath
that the current landing gear fits in, right? So it'd have to fold up in a more complicated way, which would then lead to more failures, potentially. So they said, okay, we got to keep the landing gear. Let's move the engines in closer to the fuselage on the wings so we can get the minimum clearance. And now they have to augment the flying characteristics through software, which they didn't properly test or develop. Yeah. And then they didn't train the pilots about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a huge freaking mess.
It's unbelievable, really, that, you know, that it could happen the way that it, you know, and so tragic as well. But you can't comprehend that all of this would go out without pilots even being made aware of the changes. I mean, the whole MCAS system that none of them really knew about.
And the whole impetus behind this was simply greed.
Yeah.
Greed on the part of Boeing and airlines.
Yeah.
Because Boeing knew that they had to sell this plane.
Yeah.
And the only way they could sell it to airlines was to make it similar enough to other 737s that airlines would not have to spend millions of dollars to retrain and retype and recertify their pilots.
Yeah.
That was the crux of that. You know, the media, I think, has also blown it out of proportion. How many crashes were there? 2?
2, wasn't there? Yeah.
2, but they don't tell you the thousands of flights that were successful.
Of course, yeah. That's the thing. Yeah, definitely. It's the same with just, you know, obviously going back to the virus again. They're not telling you all these people, the thousands of people that are having the virus and you know, not being hospitalized with it, not dying from it. The media hypes everything up, and the media again, going back to as well with the you know, the airline failures that we've had here in the UK. The media has got to be to blame for a lot of those, because the moment, you know, one of these airlines, and it was the same for Monarch, the same for Flybe, the same for Thomas Cook, the moment that they announced that they might have been having slight financial difficulties or whatever, it's across all of the press. They're going to fail, they'd be made bankrupts, this, that and the other. Don't book your holidays with them. So, of course, then the bookings drop and, you know, and it's just
which just speeds up the inevitable.
Of course, yeah. So the media have got a lot to answer for with a lot of things, really. You know,
well, you know, it's like when this whole Corona thing started, and people in our industry, people that are employed, that pay their mortgages and their rent by working in our industry, are talking about, well, just let the airlines collapse. Why are we going to bail them out? Blah, 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 blah. I'm like, what are you, fucking stupid?
I know, exactly.
What the hell else are you going to do?
Yeah. And for so many people in our industry, it literally has been, they've left school, college, and come into this. They've done, you know, a lot of people have done nothing else. So what else are they going to do? You know?
Yeah. It's an easy job.
Exactly.
We don't have a boss breathing down our neck. We're not actively supervised. No. We work 4 or 5 days at a stretch and then take forever off. And then, it's not a bad gig.
No, that's the thing. Exactly.
And we're not chained to a desk. We're not staring at a computer all day long.
Yeah.
Any of that.
I literally, the thought of going back to
a desk job,
a 9 to 5. Oh, it just.
I've done a lot of things in my life, and I will not go back to a desk job if I can help it.
Same.
Yeah.
Same. And if it is, it will be a temporary thing before I can get back up.
I wonder if this is an American thing in terms of the kids.
Yeah.
Because I haven't noticed it so much working UK flights.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'll come up to the kid sitting next to mom or dad. I'll ask the kid, who's perfectly capable of speaking English, ask him what he wants to drink, and he looks at mom.
Oh, yeah.
And whispers something.
Yeah,
and then mom translates.
Yeah.
And one time this kid was like 15, and he looks at his dad and go, look at me and talk to me.
Yeah.
Don't be rude.
Yeah.
Do you have that issue over there?
Yeah, definitely. We have that sometimes. We have that with grown-ups sometimes, wives with the husbands or husbands with the wives. Tell him I'll have this or tell her I'll have that. And, and it's just like, you can speak. I can hear you. You don't need to go through.
I'm right here.
Yeah, you don't need to go through your spouse. I'm here. I can hear you. It's fine. You can actually talk to me. I'm not going to bite.
What I think is funny is, I'll come up on a married couple and I'll ask them what they want to drink. And they look at each other and have a meeting.
Yeah.
They have to discuss it. Well, what are you going to have? Well, I don't know. What are you going to have? Well, I don't know. I'm kind of thinking about a margarita. Well, I kind of think. It's like, just tell me what you fucking want.
I know, exactly.
They have to have a meeting. They have to have PowerPoint presentations, take notes.
Yeah.
It's a big ordeal.
It drives you beverage. Yeah, I know, exactly. Yeah, or some food, like just...
The food, we handed them menus.
Yeah,
and there's like 2 options.
Yeah.
Hand them the menu. What would you like to have for lunch? Well, I don't know. What do you have? It's on the menu I just gave you. No, do you have fish?
Yeah.
No, it's not on the menu. Fucking moron.
They do. They drive you insane. But yeah, we have that with the kids, and they're running up and down the aisle, and and especially during the school holidays, it's just if I could have that. Hopefully, maybe this should have come a little bit later on into the year, so we weren't flying during the school holidays. Then that would have been perfect. The thought of us maybe going back to flying then, and having all the families with the kids going away is just it drives me.
We do have a base here in Orlando, but I choose to be based in New York.
Yeah.
And people ask me, well, are you going to transfer to Orlando? No. You know why?
Yeah.
Because of the fucking kids.
Because of the kids. Yeah.
I don't like kids.
Yeah. No, same. Mm-hmm.
Little mongrels.
Yeah. No.
They're filthy.
Yeah. Here we go again.
There are some flights that I don't like. I don't like Paris.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds snobby. Well, I don't care for going to Paris. For a couple of reasons. One, it takes 2 hours to get to the hotel.
Yeah.
So it's 4 hours of our layover that we're losing because of traffic in Paris.
Yeah.
The other thing is because we have a partnership with Air France. And so we're just taking them passengers that then connect on Air France.
Yeah.
And they're going to other parts of the world where people are not very nice. We deal with a lot of folks going to Israel.
Right.
But they're not Israelis. They're New Yorkers.
Yeah.
And Israelis are fine. It's New Yorkers that suck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they've got these large families, and they're swinging from the goddamn ceiling, and they won't get the fuck out of the way. And then they demand the kosher, get it, and then don't eat it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And demanding the glasses of water and things.
They want the whole bottle.
Yeah.
Sorry, you can't have it.
Yeah.
I'll give you a cup. Yeah. I'm so glad that the cruise security protocol has changed at Heathrow.
Yeah.
It used to be awful. I just dreaded going to London, and I would avoid it only because of the security issues.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like London.
Yeah.
And the hotel kind of sucks, but it's a great location. We're right off of High Street in Kensington. It's close to the park. It's close to the palace. Some fantastic restaurants.
Yeah.
And right by the High Street Tube station. Very convenient. But, when you go back to the airport, it's like you're driving into a concentration camp. There's barbed wires, people with guns, big arms, and all this other stuff. And they're like Nazis in there. They'll find some chapstick you had in your bag for 10 years ago that you didn't know about, and then give you so much hell over it and write stuff down in a book and look at you funny.
Yeah.
But now they changed it. Now it's almost like going in like a normal person.
That's it. That's pretty much like across the UK. I think it's very strange.
Same with Scotland and
how severe our airport security.
They treat us like criminals.
Yeah, definitely. And you just think, we're doing this job every single day. Half of them know our faces anyway. So and then you say there's a stray, bottle of water or moisturizer in your bag or something, and they, you as you say, you get made out to be a bloody terrorist, and yeah, it's ridiculous. It really is.
I mean, who's more likely to do something stupid?
Well, exactly. Yeah,
we have access to the flight deck.
Yeah.
With or without that bottle of water.
I think it's just a little power trip for half of them. I think it's, they have the whole little power goes to the head and that, we can take this off them, or we can do that, and just like
and then write it down in that little freaking book.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
But some of them just don't care. They're like, oh, what is that? A bomb? Sure, come on in, no problem.
I know.
What is that? A hair blower with a scope on it? No problem. Come on in.
That's it. There's no middle of the road ones. They're either really strict or really don't give a fuck. There's
bowling ball with a fuse.
Yeah, that's fine. Come on.
Just keep it moving.
Yeah. Oh God.
Well, okay, Dan. This has been a very nice chat.
Yes.
Thanks for coming on the podcast. You're going to be the first guest ever on the.
Oh wow! Oh, that's lovely. Oh, I'm very excited. You'll have to send me a link once it goes on.
Well, thanks for coming on.
Not a problem at all. It's been a pleasure speaking to you.
Right back at you. Thanks for listening to the Grumpy Stew Podcast. Be sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. Visit thegrumpystew.com for almost everything Grumpy Stew. Check out Confessions of a Trolley Dolly. It's on the Facebook, it's on the Twitter, it's on the Instagram. And say your prayers to our buddy Jetway Jesus. He loves you, but he needs your money. And I just might consider talking to you people again in the near future. But until next time, take care of yourselves, wash your hands, stay away from people, and take care.